In case you didn't know, I'm a bit of a homebody. I don't necessarily like to leave the house much, and when I do, I certainly don't like to hop on a plane and fly 3,500 miles away to another continent. That is, unless of course I'm being paid to do so, in which case I will make an exception. You may also not know that I occasionally work on television shows and that those television shows sometimes send me to some pretty fun places. While I can't tell you any specifics about this particular show, what I can tell you is that I had the opportunity to visit the Big Smoke, the Square Mile, the swinging city itself, London. As Robin from the Lego Batman movie would say, I was pretty jazzed, Padre. The only time I had traveled internationally was a vacation trip to Trinidad with some college friends and the occasional stint in good old Canada. And despite Shia LaBeouf's sage-like advice, it had seemed like my dreams of going to Europe were destined to remain dreams. That is until I got the call, started packing my things, and embarked on a 7-day journey to go see where royalty lives. It is the night before I am scheduled to fly to London for this work trip that I'm going on. I'm deciding to bring 2 cameras. First camera I'm bringing is this Kodak Easyload 35, the KE60. It's a fun little point and shoot that I picked up at a thrift store not that long ago. And the other camera I'm bringing is the Ricoh XR-2. As far as film, I'm not bringing a whole lot just because I am going to be spending a majority of my time there working, so I'm not entirely sure how much I'm going to be able to actually shoot. I'm bringing 2 rolls of Kodak Ultramax, and then I think I got a roll of HP5, so a little bit of color and black and white. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure I'll check back in with the rest of the footage from this trip. So let's go to that. But before we get to that, I had to sit on a grueling 8-hour flight in which I watched a few episodes of Black Mirror, read a couple chapters of a Murakami book, and ate some airline food that would make Jerry Seinfeld nostalgic. And then we landed in London. When we got to the hotel, I was told that unfortunately my room wasn't ready yet, and it would be a few hours to wait. So I did what any sensible traveler would do. I threw a temper tantrum and told them I'm an American, and I wouldn't stand for such disrespect. I kid, of course. I wandered around and took some photos. So the point and shoot that I'm using to take these photos is this guy right here, the Kodak Easyload KE60. The camera's build quality is surprisingly pretty great. It's kind of like finding a diamond in a haystack, only that diamond is made of sturdy plastic. The buttons on this bad boy are responsive and easier to press than a snooze button on a Monday morning. Now let's talk about the lens. Sure, it doesn't have the big aperture like some of those other fancy pants point and shoots, but if I've learned anything, it's not to judge a lens by its aperture size. It's not the size of the boat, as they say. This lens is the real deal, made entirely of glass. It's so high quality that the KE20, 25, and 30 models had to settle for a hybrid lens with plastic elements. The KE60 is the only one with an all-glass lens. It's sort of like the unicorn of the bunch. This 29mm wonder produces some decently sharp images with some pretty interesting characteristics. Sure, it's not gonna blow your Contax T2 or Yashica T4 out of the water, but it's gonna get the job done. And I know a thing or two about getting the job done. Plus, when packing for an international trip, I always get nervous about bringing too much gear with me. So having a compact and reliable point and shoot is definitely the way to go. Will it give me photos that I'm thrilled with or that inspire me? We'll have to wait and find out. But that's why I brought my Ricoh XR-2 and threw in a roll of good old Ilford HP5. For a deep dive into the Ricoh XR-2, you could be sure to check out my full review. The link will be in the description. Okay, anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, I was roaming the streets of London, waiting for my hotel room to be ready. With 3 hours of free time to kill, I wandered in the vague direction of where I knew Big Ben to be. That was the destination. Right off the bat, it's hard to ignore that London's architecture is absolutely mesmerizing. It's a delightful mix of old and new, with historical buildings and contemporary structures sitting side by side. The city truly treasures its architectural heritage while also embracing innovation, and this perfect balance adds so much character to its soul. I finally made it to Big Ben, and man, it is pretty wild to see it in person. I'm not sure if everyone can relate to this, but it's a pretty unique feeling to just sort of end up in a place that you've only ever seen on TV, on a screen somewhere, or heard people talk about. I'm the type of person to get romantic about things like that. Like when I went to Los Angeles for the first time, I was driving in a car and I just accidentally turned down Hollywood Boulevard and saw the Chinese theater, and not gonna lie, I nearly almost burst into tears. Like on this morning, I woke up in my bed in Brooklyn, New York, hopped on a plane, and now I'm looking at Big Ben. It was truly surreal. Because I wasn't able to check into my hotel room yet, I wasn't able to drop off any of my personal luggage. So I was still carrying around this backpack full of my laptop and my iPad and a bunch of other random stuff that I had on the plane. And contrary to what I thought, London was very hot. And also, I don't know if you know this, but London in the summertime, maybe year-round, is just packed full of people. All that body heat and summer heat was really starting to get to me, and seeing as it was getting close to my check-in time, I decided to walk back to the hotel. And when I got there, I immediately collapsed on the bed and took a much-needed 4-hour nap. Okay, alright, so I'm in my hotel room. I had a pretty wild day. We had some issues at the airport when we got here. Some of our luggage is missing. I got back to the hotel and just collapsed on the bed for a few hours. Woke up around 7-ish and decided I should get up and maybe go get some food. So I got some Pizza Hut. Everything else is already closing. May as well just get a pizza. And now I'm gonna probably go back to sleep. I kind of want to take some more photos of things that are not so touristy, not so just like surrounded by other people, or I kind of want to like get a glimpse of like everyday life in London for people who live here. That's the thing that excites me the most. See some spots that aren't too recognizable. I was gonna go to Buckingham Palace, but it was just a little too out of my way. I was already exhausted from the walk. I barely ate anything. That's why I scarfed down this Pizza Hut pizza. Yeah, so looking forward to tomorrow. And I'll check back in every night with one of these. See ya. The next morning, I got up early, grabbed a bite to eat and a cold brew at a coffee shop, and watched the pigeons at a nearby park. Not long after, I went on a very long walk, exploring London in the opposite direction of where I was the previous day. Whereas on day 1, I explored the touristy side of London, on day 2, I decided to try to go look at the more residential side. before long, I hopped into a bookstore to look at the photography section, and this place was massive. It had a wonderful selection of books. While I was there, I ended up grabbing this autobiography by Man Ray called Self-Portrait, and you can bet that there will be an Artist Spotlight episode about this guy at some point in the future. Also, by the way, be sure to let me know if there's any biographies or autobiographies about any photographers that I should check out. After the bookstore, I wandered over to this main road, and when I walked along this main road long enough, I ended up at a giant park, Hyde Park to be exact. Now, because I'm an idiot, I didn't take a whole lot of footage while at Hyde Park, although I did take a video of this British duck. You could tell he's British because of his dry sense of humor. You know, because he's not in the water. Just forget I said anything. From Hyde Park, I decided to walk over to Buckingham Palace since I was just a stone's throw away. Or a scone's throw away, right? Scones are a British thing? Anyway, it was another moment like the day before at Big Ben. I was just sort of a bit in awe at the scope of it all. By now, you've probably noticed something about the roll of HP5 that I was shooting in the Ricoh XR-2. That it looks like absolute dog shit. I'm not entirely sure what happened, but my best guess is that I may have fallen victim to that age-old myth that we've all heard about our entire lives: airport X-ray machines. You see, when traveling for a TV show, there's a lot of sort of logistics and about gear and stuff that you have to be thinking about, so it's easy to, when you get to the security checkpoint, forget that you have film in your bag and ask for it to be hand-checked. So I flew to and from London with all this film in my backpack, not getting hand-checked once, going through multiple X-ray machines. Here's just a quick comparison between this London photo and another HP5 photo taken with the same camera, and we notice that the grain is very different. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% the X-ray's fault. I very well could be overlooking something, but I've been shooting the XR2 with HP5 in it for over a year now, and I've never gotten a roll back as grainy as this one. So it's obvious to me that something is amiss. And it's a real damn shame too, because, who knows the next time I'm gonna get to go back to London. I take this as a lesson to not get too comfortable shooting film, because there are forces beyond our control, and when we allow those forces to dictate our emotions, we run the risk of reality lacking what our expectations promise us. But also, beyond the grain issue, I'm just not super thrilled with the composition of any of these photos. I feel like there's this feeling you get when you go to an exotic place, comparatively speaking. And you just expect that because things look so interesting to your eye, that means that that interest is going to translate to the image. It could also have to do with the fact that these are black and white images, and I felt that London was a very vibrant city, so these photos don't necessarily encapsulate what it feels like to be there the way that my color photos do. Anyway, after getting my scans back and sobbing for an hour, I eventually just threw my hands up and accepted that they can't all be winners, and this roll of HP5 is far from a winner in terms of my personal catalog. To put it in Jason from Grainy Days terms, out of 36 exposures on the roll, there are maybe 6 that are keepers and a big fat whopping goose egg that are going in the portfolio. Now that that's out of the way, what did I do after Buckingham Palace? I went back to my hotel room because I had a lot of work to do. You see, our gear had finally arrived and I had to get it prepped and ready for the week ahead of us. After that was done, I went ahead and took a bath, threw on a bathrobe, read a little bit of my book, and got ready for the work week ahead. If you've been on a work trip like this one, you know how hard it could be to find time to take photos. Once the work week got started, it was just go, 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 and I really wasn't able to photograph much. So because of that, the rest of this video is going to be kind of short. So here's a montage of some random stuff from the rest of the week. If I had to summarize my trip to London in one word, I would probably use chaotic. There was hardly any time to relax on this trip, and therefore hardly any time to take in the atmosphere or just breathe in the breath of the city. Don't get me wrong, I did get some photos that I'm happy with. All of these here are winners in my book. But overall, I just wish I really had the time to focus on the photos themselves. I felt so pressured to just capture everything in sight that I feel like I sacrificed a bit of the quality that I think that I'm capable of. If we don't take the time to learn these lessons out in the field, I'm afraid we may never learn them at all. So let that be a vicarious lesson to you all to go out there and up every once in a while, because you might just thank yourself later. And finally, the question that I'm sure is on everyone's minds, what did I think of fish and chips? Honestly, overrated. Thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate everyone who has liked and subscribed and commented so far. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you get notified whenever a new video is released. And I'll see you all next time. Good day, mate. Good day, mate. Hello. I wonder if I should do this video with a British accent.